hold on to me.
Hello, how's it going? Hello everyone, can you see me? Can you hear me? All good? Reading the chat. So hello James, hello Cesar. I will close the doors from here. Okay. Well, how is it going? We are starting this new series of live streams, more focused on market. Well, the last few sessions we were like talking about AI, how to. Hello, Aradi. We're talking about AI, how to build a model, all that stuff. Today, we're going to start talking about the market making controller. The idea of learning about the market making controller is to. I'm going to close this position. Sorry, I was testing one thing, so I was just close the position. The idea of the market making controller, actually, the idea of today is that we can understand the original market making controller. We can see the new controller that I'm working on that includes the position hold feature. I think that would be something really interesting. Understanding the differences between one that you can use. Let's say that you are a contract market maker. Sometimes if you are a contract market maker, the KPIs are more important than the actual P&L stuff. Is like you need to fill a contract. So once you fill the contract and your KPIs are okay to fill the contract, you have that execution, then you can worry about how you can improve the bot, all that stuff. So the original idea of the market making controller was to create something that you can customize, but basically puts all the capital around the mid price. So you always have that amount of capital around the mid price. That was like the original idea. And there is no like gap or extra capital that you can use to do other things or to have a floating P&L with a position. The new version has this new feature that can have a floating position that you can control and reduce it and increase it, all that stuff. So let's start by checking the market making controller. So let me go here. I'm doing some improvements to the executor orchestrator and all that stuff, and to the Binance connector too. I think there was an issue with the user stream listener in Binance Perps that I think that is fixed in this is going to be fixed in this release. So well, first of all, let's check. You see here inside controllers, you have directional trading, market making, and generic. The ones that are inside directional trading or the ones that are inside market making are controllers that are inheriting from a base class for doing directional trading and a base class for doing market making. The reason is because when you need to code a strategy, when you are coding a strategy, you need to define like I'm Saul. I'm going to make the intro to the market making controller base. But the idea of these controllers or this controllers base is that what you're going to do with execution is usually something that is that you can repeat with different inputs. So let's say that you are running a market maker. The market maker will place orders around the mid price. So let's say that instead of placing the orders around the mid price, now I want to place the orders around the last traded price. Well, that's something that you can easily do with a config. But let's say that instead of placing the orders around the mid price, you would like to place the orders around some reference price that you are computing based on aggregating different sources of data. So it's like you don't want to code a different strategy with all the code that involves placing the orders and stuff. You just want to change what is that mid price, right? So that's the idea of having these base controllers that all like the execution that's saying, okay, you have X amount of orders per side, you have this total amount quote that you need to distribute, you have this allocation of amounts to each level, like all that should be like the same no matter what the mid price or the reference price is. But you can have different versions of what for you the reference price is, run the two of them at the same time, and then see which one is better, right? So well, that's all the intuition about why we created the controllers is. And today we are going to learn a little bit about the market making controller, so you can like understand how it works and how you can extend it. As you know, these are like all examples that are very simple. We just have one example that, as you can see, this PMM simple controller is just 38 lines of code, because the only thing that we need to implement here is how we get the position executor config. And then this PMM dynamic is basically, this is a little bit more extensive. It's like 132 lines, but this part is the same. How we get the executor config is the same as the PMM simple. The only thing that is important here is this method that is update processed data. So just to because there is some people that is, I'm checking the viewers and increased a little bit. Today we are checking the market making controller and the different implementations that we can do over this base controller. Also, we're going to check the new market making controller base that includes the position hold feature instead of allocating all the capital around the mid price. So well, in this one, in the PMM dynamic controller, what you can see is that we have this update processed data method that is the only one that you need to generate. That the idea of this method is that we update in the processed data the information of the reference price, the spread multiplier, and the features. Is mostly for backtesting, but the idea is that we can pass the reference price and the spread multiplier. And let's understand how all this works in the base controller. The idea of creating this market making controller base was that anyone can create a different implementation of PMM dynamic, change the way that you are computing this reference price and the spread multiplier, and just have a newer version of this controller. To explain a little bit before going to the code, let me show you controllers. Controllers. Yeah. Well, this is something that in the Bootcamp courses I explain like with details, all that stuff. And soon I'm going to revamp the docs to have more information about the docs. But basically, if you check the dashboard, you will see this in the dashboard too. In the dashboard, you have this graph that shows this will be like the order number one, like the 0, on the second order, the first order of sale, and the second order of sale. So basically, we need to place these orders around certain mid price, right? But what are the main things that you can do if you want to do this thing, like to make it a little bit more dynamic rather than just fixed percentages? What you can do is to where is here? Oh, I think that here. What you can do is, like, instead of using the mid price, let's say that this is a mid price. What you can do is to have a different reference price. That is a thing that I was showing in the code, that instead of using the mid price to place the orders around that, I can use a reference price to place the orders around that. And you can make that, instead of making the orders, the distance of the first order being 1%, is 1 unit of volatility. That then the volatility can be computed as you want. Can be any type of measurement of volatility. In the examples that are in the code base, we are using the NATR, that basically the NATR is the average size of the candle in percentage. So just to show you, this example is 0.5% is the candle size. So what the NATR does is gets the percent, actually is the ATR divided by the close price, so that's why we have this percentage value. But in simple terms, what it's doing is computing what is the size of the candles using the high, low, and previous close. There is a formula if you want to check it. Does that computation over the number of candles that you want, a length that you define, and then based on that it says, okay, the average size in percentage of a candle is 0.5. So you can use multipliers of that to define your spreads. That is what is done in this specific controller. The PMM dynamic, what it does is says, what is the NATR? We compute the NATR over this length, and then we said the spread multiplier is the NATR. The thing is, with just passing the spread multiplier and the reference price here, our market maker will use these two values to define what is the reference price and then how to multiply the spreads based on that. So well, let's check a little bit the base class to understand how it works. So we have the config, that here is the config is like all the parameters are going to appear in the YAML. So I don't have one here, but let's create one. To create one, you go here, you run play on Hummingbot, or you start Hummingbot directly. And then what you do is create controller config, market making, PMM simple. And then says, what is the total amount that you are going to use for trading? Let's say that we are going to use, let's say $200. Let's trade on Binance Perpetual, so we don't have the problem of the inventory, because in spot it is solved in the market making controller. But the way that I design these strategies is that they work in spot and in perpetual with the same controller. That's something very interesting, because you don't need to rewrite a new strategy to run it in perpetuals. You can just run the same strategy in a spot than in perpetuals. The only way that I was able to accomplish this design was that I consider selling, if you like, let's say that you start with a sell order. That sell order, obviously that you need to have the inventory in order to do it. But we are using the position executor. And the position executor, what it does is it is going to open a trade and close it. So let's understand it in perpetuals. If it's a buy position executor, it will buy and then will sell via take profit, via stop loss, or via time limit. So at the end, you're going to end up with almost the same capital than the one that you started. So if it's a sell executor, it's going to open a short and it's going to close the short with take profit if the price goes down, with stop loss if the price goes up, and with time limit if it ends. The same behavior can be abstracted in spot. If you consider if you start selling a short, then if you buy that asset back, you remain invariant from the initial state, but you take profit in that case, right? So what we do is, like in a spot, depending if the position executor is buy or sell, if it's buy, we'll start with a buy order and then we'll close that with a sell order, making that the profit is up and the loss is down. And if it's a position executor sell, we'll sell at first and it will try to buy back at a lower price, or it will try to buy back at a higher price if it's a stop loss. So it's like the same mechanics are in a spot and in perps, so your strategies are going to be the same if you use this design pattern for your trading strategies. At first, it's a little bit difficult to understand, but once you understand that the short that's a very good question, Stanislav Ivanov, and that is what I'm going to show today. I added that's something that the people from the community was requesting, and at first I didn't want to do it because I want to like establish that these executors are working well and all that stuff. But new executor primitives are going to be added to Hummingbot. Probably the next week is going to be merged in development. I'm currently working on that. That are going to be just increase position and reduce position. Now I incorporated the concept of position hold in the framework. So it's like, let me do a simple graph here. So it's like, let's say that this is a controller, right? The strategy is called controller. Wait, let me zoom in a little bit. So the controller is like the strategy unit controller. The controller will have a list of executors and a list of positions hold. So the executors are going to be algorithms of execution that are running actively, like for example, a grid. The controller can say create a grid between this value and this value, and that grid will be trading and generating PNL and all stuff. The controller now can say, okay, this grid that already bought $100, let's keep it as a position, and we'll be adding that as an inventory. This position hold is like inventory. So what you can do is to say, create this executor. In case that you want to keep it in your position, you can put keep position equal to true when you stop it, and it will be added to your inventory. So that's a very good question, and that is what I'm going to show today. And also, based on the position executor, you're asking if you can add it without stop loss or time limit. At least you need to put one barrier, because if not, it's not going to let you create the executor. But in case that you just want to increase the position, you can just create the increase position executor that is going to be added next week. And the good thing is that the PNL of that position is like this position hold is going to be a bag of all the positions that you said just keep it as an inventory. But instead of just keeping an inventory without knowing, that is one thing that I don't like about the trading strategies that just does buy and sell and does not keep track of your actions, is that buying something is not free. It's like if your strategy determined to buy something, that order is going to be part of your position hold, and the accumulation of the total orders that you have in that position hold have a total amount, and they have a break-even price. And from that break-even price and from that amount, you have an unrealized PNL that is not free. That is my point. My point about this trading strategy is that buying or selling something is not free. It's like if your strategy makes a change in your inventory, that change has to be tracked, and that change is subjected to unrealized PNL. So that's why I created this position hold, that in case that you create an executor and then you said, okay, I want to keep this executor in my inventory, that order will be tracked in a bag of orders where we are going to compute the break-even price, and based on the current price, we are going to estimate what is your unrealized PNL. Soon I'm going to run a bot in Bitcoin, and you're going to see it. When you stop, you can also use the keep position, and it will keep the position, Stanislav. That is also what it's going to do. So coming back to what we were doing, we were creating a config. We're going to add a Binance Perpetual yes, it's going to keep track of that, and also it's going to store that in the database. Yet I didn't incorporate that to make the potential restore and restart with the position that you have before. I will do it, but I'm going to focus on that this week and the next week. Well, this week is almost over, but the next week I will be really focusing on finishing this. So well, let's pick the trading pair. Let's use the one that I was used trading here. That was Mubarak USDT. Mubarak USDT. Then here says enter a comma separated list of buy spreads. This means that it's 1% and 2%. So let's put it like 0.05%, 1%, and let's add 3 orders per side, and 2%. The same, let's add the same for sell. Okay. And the refresh time of the orders, let's put like 5 seconds. Then the leverage, let's put 25. The stop loss, this is like 3%. The take profit, let's put 0.08. And the time limit in seconds, let's put, I don't know. Let's put, yeah, let's put 1000. Limit, take profit, the trading stop, this is not going to be used, but the orders can also have trading stop. And let's call this PMM simple MKB. Well, I mean MKB. So now we have this YAML created. So let's say that we're going to check the YAML, controllers, MKB. Let's see the config. As you can see, it says buy spreads. We have these buy spreads. We have the sell spreads. Let me also copy this, because by default the buy amounts percentage is null, as you can see, but we can add different values for this, so we can see the last order being more aggressive with more amount than the other ones. You don't need to worry about the normalization, because the control itself manages the sum of all the weights that are here and then normalize all the weights. So it's like you can, the values of the orders are going to be okay. So we can even put like 2, 3, 2, and 3, let's say, something like that. And the refresh time is 5 seconds, the cooldown time is 15 seconds, and the time limit is going to be this amount. So well, now in case let's change the ID here to PMM Mubarak PMM MKB 1, let's call it PMM MKB 1, let's call it like that. So this is one. In case that we would like to run this controller, what we need to do is the basic script is conf v2 with controllers, but let's say that you don't have this. Let me remove it. How you create it? You need to open Hummingbot, add the password, and now create script config v2 with controllers, and then says enter the controller configs that you want to run. In this case, I want to just run this one. Enter the new file name. Let's just put conf2 with controllers, and now the file that was here before is created again. So the idea of this file is that here you can list the controller configs that you would like to run, right? So let's say that instead of having this, but now first let's run this, and now I'm going to show you how you can run it in 2 markets, then in 3 markets, then 2 different controllers, and so. So if we want to run it, I'm using here the Hummingbot quick start. You will see that I can run play, and it will start. It will say setting the leverage, whatever, creating the buy and sell orders. Now if we go to the exchange, we can see that the orders are created and it's like we are trading on the market, so everything is okay. And every 5 seconds is going to refresh the orders. So well, that is what we are looking for. That's very simple. It's something that probably you already know how it works. What are the things that you can do here is, well, instead of refreshing the orders based on time, you can refresh the orders based on distance. Instead of well, there are a bunch of things that you can do. That depends on you how you want to extend the strategy, right? But well, this is the basic market making controller. So as I mentioned, here we are running just one market. There are some things that are interesting here is that if you change, for example, from the MKB controller, you change some parameters, like for example, the refresh time, we can put, let's say 2 seconds here. In the conf B2 controllers, there is this parameter that says config update interval 60 seconds. So here you can put 10 seconds, let's say. This means that every 60 seconds, the config will be updated, right? So, well, that is basically how it works. But, well, that depends on you on how you want to do it. To know what parameters are updatable or which ones are not, if you go here to the market making controller base, you will see that in the config, when we are defining the config, if says is updatable equal to true, this means that is going to be updatable. So as you can see now, if you check here the logs, you see that the orders are created and recreated and so. One important thing is that is how these orders are created. As we are using position executors, the executor is independent each one to the other one. So as you can see, the request is going to be independent between each executor, and each one is going to be managed independently. That's another thing to know. Well, let's come back to put the refresh in 10 seconds. The runs in Docker, is there a way to connect them as you do? Yeah, you can. Actually, there is one friend of mine that is also a contributor that uses it Portainer. Portainer is good because it's free. You can just deploy it in your own machine. And this is Portainer. That basically shows all you can connect multiple instances. You can access directly to the terminal, attach the terminal, so you can see everything that you want there. So, well, now let's see how you can run 2 bots instead of 1. Then we're going to see how to run it with Docker. Well, then I'm going to show the new market making with position hold in a spot trading. So you can see the position hold, how the position is managed and everything. And then we're going to do what Saul wants, that is something that we're requesting the people in Discord, is how we can deploy bots from another program. That is what you probably want to do. Is like once you know what you want to do, you would like to have a program that controls that your execution or your operations are working properly. That can be deploying a bot that trades here if the volatility is bigger than X, right? Can be anything. Well, so let's see now how you can run 2 strategies in the same bot. You see that we have this PMM simple MKB that we were using. If we duplicate this and let's call it like WorldCoin, we can change here the ID to wall, and then here WorkCoin, and yeah, it's going to work. So we added another config.yaml here in the controllers. You have this config.yaml, this config.yaml, and what we need to do is to add it to the scripts. So here we can, let's stop this one. Let's keep this, and let's now add pmm simple WorkCoin.yaml. So now if we restart this again, we will see that it's going to be starting here, and now we are trading again in this market, but we are also trading in WorkCoin with the same structure, right? As you can see, this WorkCoin is much more bigger, so we can adjust the values. Let's say to 0.3, 0.3, 0.05, and 0.01, 1, and 0.05, and then this should be also like updating the spreads that we are using. Let's see now, this is 1%. Yeah, now that see that I updated the spreads in this YAML file, and now the spreads are updated in this market. So that's cool. We can update or tweak the bot in real time. But essentially, as you can see, if we sum the total amount of these orders, this is like $200. That basically is this $200 that we have here. And the question is, what happens when one of our orders gets filled? And that is really important to understand the behavior of the market making controller. Basically, each of these orders is a position executor. So this is a position executor of sell, another position executor of sell, another position executor of sell, another position executor of buy, and buy. So in total, we have 6 position executors. Each of them has his own. Each of the executors have his own take profit, stop loss, and time limit, right? And well, I'm trading stop. So this means that this executor that we are seeing here, if this executor gets hit, it will place a buy order here. It will place like a buy order here. Let's put a green. If this one gets executed, it will place like a buy order here. So it's like each order is not a simple order, it's an executor. And when that executor gets filled, it will try to match with an opposite order. Via take profit, we'll place a limit order here, and we can define a stop loss that if the price goes up a certain point, we'll close the trade, or we can define a time limit that if some X amount of time happen, we're going to close the trade. So let's make a quick example. Probably we can do it in the other market that is more volatile. Let's say that here we would like to experience how a buy executor looks like getting hit. So let's change the spread of the first buy order to be really close to the current price. So we are going to look for a fill, and we should see that we should see that the take profit order is created. Maximo says, can we update an executor once it was already created? If you're using a controller, not yet. But we can easily add an update executor config parameter. What you can do is to call the early stop command in case that you want to early stop it, and that will reverse it automatically. But it's something that is not difficult to add the update on the config. The difficult thing is to understand what parameters can be updatable and which ones cannot be updatable, because it will introduce a little bit of complexity. Stanislaw says, sorry, I missed, where is the second config in the chart? The second config you mean for WorldCoin? Here in the conf B2 controllers, we define which are the configs that we are going to run. The first one is for MKB and the second one is for WorldCoin. And for WorldCoin, I just copy and paste the one that we did at first, and I just change the names to WorldCoin. So actually, we did trades. We did some trades. It's interesting. Well, this is a report that we have. If you run status dive, you can see this. I commented this part that was this strategy V2 base. I commented this part that was showing a list of the executors in a table format, because when you run a strategy that has a bunch of executors, it gets more complex to see this. So I just defined to have the they were take profit. This we have to take profits on this one. Oh, interesting. MKB. Let me see. I didn't notice that we were. That we have a field. But yeah. Yeah, we have a field. Check here. We have these two executors. When we have this big candle, the sell was created. Probably now we're going to have this similar thing. If the price goes up suddenly, we can probably see it. But I don't know if you can see it, but see that you have these red arrows. These were like to sell, and we have this green arrow here and this green arrow here. Those were like the take profit of the sell position executors. So well, let me tweak the parameter. Quick, can you install on Mac a dev version of Hummingbot? Yes, now I can do it, but the docs should be complete here in hummingbot.org. Documentation, installation, via source, Mac OS. You need to run these commands. I don't recommend doing this. David, if you are in the call, I don't recommend doing this because sometimes with Miniconda there are issues with the distribution. So the thing that I recommend for Mac OS is to install Anaconda directly. Anaconda, go here, download the installer, and just install it from there. Don't use Miniconda for Mac OS because there were people reporting issues with Miniconda. So the easiest way to don't have issues is to install Anaconda directly. And then you need to run these steps, and then we'll start. But well, we have another trade. No, maybe it was in WorldCoin. Take profit. No, yeah, I have 6 trades total. Okay, well, let's force a trade so we can visualize it. Visualize how is the behavior when a trade gets filled and the take profit is placed, and you will see that when that happens, when we get a fill, automatically we're going to be placing the opposite order. So if we force a sell, we should see in the chart 2 sells and 4 buys, because one of the buys is going to be related to the previous sell. So that is how this executor handles that. So let's force a sell, because it seems like the market is trending up. It's going to be easier to force a sell. And remember the other thing, if the order doesn't get filled by yeah, we have cooldown time. Okay, perfect. So see that the take profit is 0.08%. So 0.08% is very low. Let's increase it to, let's say, 0.1%. So 0.1 would be something like this. We should see a distance of this well, let's put at 0.15. So because I don't want to have the execution immediately, I would like to wait a little bit until it gets executed. So this distance will be from the order that gets filled up to the take profit. So we have a field. You see, we have the field there. Now we have a position open here, and this buy order is the take profit of this position that we have here. So see that now you see that this order is not refreshed. We have 4 buys. One of those buys is closing the sell order that was filled there. So see that in these orders, if I hide other symbols, you will see that this close short is the one that is intended to close. Yeah, now it closed. So we finally close the trade again. But the point here is that for a certain amount of time, there were only 2 sell orders and 4 buy orders, because one of the buy orders was related to the sell order that we have here. So if we check the market again here, you will see that now we have 3 take profits and the realized P&L is 0.6. Well, so I don't need to update the orders. You already understood how it works. But my point here is that let's say that the market goes up, boom, all up. Each of these orders will leave a buy order in the market. That buy order that each of these orders is going to leave, see now, it's going to be another execution. Oh, I know, it cancelled by refresh. But we probably will have another execution now. Dun. Yes, execution, sell order, buy order created, because now we put 0.2. It closed again, it's here. We take profit again. So yeah. Well, this is basically the simple market making. But what I was trying to say is that if the executor gets filled, like all these executors gets filled, right? And the market starts going up, we are going to see 6 buy orders, and the sell orders are not going to be replaced. This is something that is constant. We have a lot of questions in Discord about this. That is like, hey, my orders are not replaced. And the thing is that this design is intended to show how you can create a market maker that just exposed certain amount of money around the mid price without replacement. The only way to have replacement is that we buy and then we execute a trade, and then we execute the opposite trade to rebalance the inventory via stop loss, take profit, or time limit. That makes that your total inventory that you need to allocate to this specific you see now we have a buy, and this is going to be the order to close the long. I want that one of the trades goes in the opposite direction so we can see actually a stop loss or a time limit. But the thing is that if the market goes down, this order will still be placed here, and at some point via stop loss will be reversed, and then we can place the first level again. So the idea of this is that if the market is going up, you are not selling. You just have a specific allocation around the mid price that you cannot change, and that for some specific scenarios is better, and you can define some logic in order to refresh. So one of the logic, in case that, for example, you just want to be a contract market maker and you don't want to have a lot of problems, let's say, with the KPIs, you can define a time limit very short. So when the order gets filled, you will reverse the order at some point. Is that you can leave, I don't know, 5 seconds. If your take profit is not hit, just reverse the trade, assume the loss of the transaction cost or the loss that you have, and continue trading. That's one of the options that you have if you're like a contract market maker. Try to assume loss but maintain the liquidity around the KPI. That is like the simplest way to do it. But well, depending on your experience and so, you can code more customized solutions. But well, this is the original market making controller. Now let's understand how this can be changed with the position hold. So we end up making 12 cents. We're going to be rich with this. So let's stop this. And now let's see that everything is stopped. We don't have more orders. Okay, perfect. Before moving on, another thing, or why these executors, or why this controller thing is cool. It's like, see this MKB simple? We can call MKB simple 2. And now let's call it 2. And now let's put 0.3, 4, 3, 4, and 5. 3, 4, and 5. This is not going to execute it never, but the thing here is that with just adding this thing here, now you can test like 2 bots or 2 different strategies, or the same strategy with different configs in the same bot, like coexisting. But the interesting thing is that all the metrics and all the reporting of field, you see that this previous state is recorded in the database, so we can see that the first one made 12 cents, but this one is not started yet, and this one not. But the important thing is that all the tracking of the actions is really independent between each of the configurations that you deploy. So in case that you are running a strategy that you can have some parameters to configure and you want to test how that parameter in production makes a difference, you can like deploy replicas of the same strategy with different configs in the same bot. And the good thing is that the resources, as the order book, the trades, the candles, or any resource that you are going to use from the exchange, from that specific market, is going to be reused. So you can, it's like kind of free to deploy different versions of the same strategy with different configurations. And as you can see, all of them is working in the same market, but each of the actions is completely independent. That is why the executors and this abstraction of the controllers helps you a lot when you want to do more scalable things. Maximo is doing a very great question, and the answer is true. Is yes. The inventory is independent from each bot, because the controllers create an idea of like virtual inventory. So each controller, when it's taking an action in the market, like creating an executor, that executor has certain amount associated with that specific controller. So it's completely independent, and the other controllers, they don't know what the other controller is doing. They only know what they are doing. But the good thing is that this is more advanced, but the good thing is that each controller is completely independent in terms of the virtual position and the virtual executors, but the main strategy, that is the B2 with controllers, is this strategy, B2 with controllers. This strategy is like the portfolio manager strategy. So this is the only one that knows what the rest of the controllers are doing and can restrict certain actions. Let's say that one of your controllers already has a lot of unrealized P&L. Okay, you can now start blocking new actions from that controller. And you can do it in the methods that are, for example, there's one method here that is process MQTT. There is one method here that is this is going to be in the base, I think. strategy base, B2 base. I don't know if it was in the strategy B2 base. Here. Listen to executor actions. There is an actions queue that basically the idea of this, that is everything oriented to actions, is that I think that in the future there are going to be multiple interfaces to interact with Hummingbot, and the easiest way to do it is between actions. So if you use actions, it's like an AI agent can use like function calling to create an executor, and that object, create executor, that is a base model, is really easy to generate for an AI agent. So it's like, if you think about remote controllers, you can, well, I designed also like based on that, but basically you have like an actions queue that the controllers are going to send their actions through this queue. Then the base strategy will receive the actions from the queue and execute the actions, update executor's info, and so. So basically, that is where you can intercept the messages and do whatever you want. Plus, in the onTick method, for example, you can control some things like max drawdown. The controller can have a parameter says if the drawdown is bigger than X%, stop it. So this control max drawdown, what it's doing is check the mouse controller drawdown, and for that is checking if the controller is running. If the controller is running, what was the last PNL, what is the current PNL, checking the drawdown, and if the drawdown reaches certain limit, just stop the controller. So with this, you can stop a controller based on the drawdown that it's having. Like this, you can code any type of solution. And then, well, another question was, Grand lol from Greeks. I know a grand that was trying to market make the Marty friends has your name lol. Where? Maybe you are talking with Maxi. Okay. Saul says, can you stop or start a single controller with the B2 controller script while running? Like, let's say I have 10 controllers running and I realize one of them is going. Yeah, Saul, you can do it. Actually, in the dashboard, there is an example where you can just stop a single controller from there. If you check here, I'm going to show you how to do it manually, in case that you want to do it manually. Let's say that we are running these controllers. This controller that is PMM Mubarak perp. So this PMM Mubarak perp, well, I have a position here. Let's see which is the one that has the position. Sorry, is this one. So you see that this one has this unrealized PNL quote of $17. Let's say they want to stop this one because it's not doing well. PMM MKB1. So we go here. This is not. Let's close the ones that are not. Is this one. PMM simple Mubarak perp. You see that here you have this manual kill switch is null. So here you will see that this is the one that has the position. So if I change this to true, you will see that when is the actual refresh time. Let me see if the logs, if I don't have a problem with the logs. You see that no, it didn't end. Yeah, now you see that stop the position. When I put manual kill switch true, it terminated the controller and close the position that controller has associated and stop placing the orders from that controller. So well, that is why it's that is how you can stop a specific controller. So yeah, and then if you want to start it again, you can just go here and put manual key switch false, and with as you can see, by just putting false, manual glitch is false, it started again. And if I put here true again, it has a 10-second delay from the update config that I mentioned before, but it will stop all the executors. See, now it stops again. So yeah, that is how it works. And if I want to stop the other one, let's say that I want to stop the MKB2, I can put false here, and well, stop the second one, and this in 10 seconds will stop, and so. So yeah. It seems like there is people that knows each other in the chat. Rafael says, can you show the configuration for running quick start in PyCharm? That is something that is really important, guys, what Rafael is saying, because if you are a developer and you are developing your controller, usually it's very good to test it, see if it fails or not, debug and all that stuff. And if you need to run start, Hummingbot, whatever, it's a pain in the ass. So it's better to have this quick start here. So here in edit, you will see that the way is, first of all, the script is Hummingbot quick start.py, and is -p_a, that is a password of the instance, -f v2 with controllers, -c conf v2 with controllers. This is the one from the script, right? If you run this in the terminal, also works. Like, it will start automatically from the terminal. But it is what I'm using for the debug mode. And then, importantly, you need to add emulate terminal in output console. That's another important thing. Grant Stephenson, you are from Greece? You are Greek, Grant Stephenson? You're from the UK. Okay. If there is any Greek guy in the audience, let me know, because I want to go to Corfu and I need some guidance to know where to go and all those places. Well, Stanislav Ivanov says, Max drawdown, how do you add this param in my config? To add that param in your config is a param from the script. The script has this configuration, the V2 with controllers. That's why the other day, well, I'm not going to reach up to the point to how to deploy with QuantLab, probably. Well, we can see, probably yes, but I don't want to promise, because I want to show the position hold feature from the other controller. But in case that you want to add this parameter of max drawdown, if you go, when you create the conf v2 with controllers config, you see that here inside conf, you have the controllers config and the script config. This is like the script launcher. You are going to use just the same one in case that you are using the controllers, right? So here, you see that you have these extra parameters, that is max global drawdown, this is all in percentage, and max controller drawdown. So here, if in max controller drawdown you put, I don't know, 5%, if one controller reaches up to 5% negative, will stop the controller and stop all the executors from that controller. And the max global drawdown combines the PNL of all the controllers that are available there, and should stop with that. Obviously that test it, because make a test with the parameters just to make sure that works well, and well, enjoy it. Well, now I want to show the controller with the position hold. For that, I'm going to move to a spot, because I think that this is much more complex than this one, because we need to manage the position, we need to manage a bunch of things. So I want to show it. Well, so let's stop this. This one didn't stop. Sorry, didn't stop because I put mark switch false. So if I put mark switch true, that will stop. And yeah, and as you can see, this one stopped now. And if we also put stop to the WorldCoin one, true, this one that is trading on WorldCoin will also stop. Yeah, perfect. So today we learned like how to deploy and how it works this market maker. There are a few things that you can use to tweak the parameters. But well, I will use this type of controller, like this market making one, in case that you are running more like an a contract based thing, that you don't care too much about the PNL. Probably you care more about having certain amount of money around the mid price, because it's really easy to tweak, right? And it's like very oriented to percentages and well, all that stuff. But usually what I would recommend is to run depending on the logic that you are using. Is like as I show, you can run the market, this behavior, like this controller, you can run multiple in the same market, so you can compose a few of them, and you can have like a config for the short time frame. You can have a for the short bound. You can have a config for the medium. You can have a config for the large, and all that stuff. That depends on you and how you want to manage it. But well, now let's move to show how the wait. I'm going to wait. Let me go to spot and get some assets. I will show how to trade on like Bitcoin. If we're going to use Bitcoin FDUSD, why? Who can answer why we're going to trade in FDUSD? I'm going to sell the Bitcoins that I have. Here I have, or yeah, let's sell Bitcoin. So who can tell me why we're going to trade on FDUSD? Oh fuck, I trade on Bitcoin USDT. Stupid. FDUSD. Let's buy some. So yeah, with this it will be enough. Okay, yeah, perfect, Saul, no fees. That's why we're going to trade there. So let me explain first, like BTC, FDUSD, okay. And also another question for more like for the general audience. What do you think about before showing the new PMM, I'm going to show the grid executor, that like the grid component that we are using, that basically is very simple to set up. It's just like a grid strategy. But the good thing about Hummingbot is that from QuantStab, as you know, you can generate, based on the analysis, certain amount of configs, and then just deploy all of them automatically. So I'm going to show what's a grid component. That is very simple. It's a grid, but it's also an example of how a controller can be very simple, that just based on a limit creates the grid. So if you see here the grid strike grid component, we have the grid config that basically this is a generic controller. So as you can see, generic grid strike grid component is the name. We are not using candles. We set up the leverage, the position mode in hedge. The connector is Binance Perpetual. In this case, let's change it to Binance. Let's put BTC. Sorry, this is the default settings. The start, we only have here the start price, the end price, and the limit price, the total amount in quote, the mean spread between orders. This is like the minimum spread between the orders that you can have is X. Then the minimum order amount that we can put, the maximum open orders at a time. This is because, I don't know if you check, but or if you are familiar with grid strategies, but the grids usually place all the grid at once. That is usually something that I don't like, because it's like, why I have to expose all the liquidity, giving a free option to the market if nobody's paying for me for doing that. So it's like, this grid executor is smart enough to know where the price of the where is each price of the grid or each level price, but it's not going to place it right away. We just wait and place certain amount of orders at maximum. Then you have the max orders per batch. This is in order if you are trading multiple markets, you don't want to probably send all the orders at once. You just want to send them progressively to avoid getting hit by rate limits and all stuff. So has these max orders per batch. Also has order frequency. That is like when you send an order, you need to wait X amount of time to send the next order. And it also has activation bounds. It's very complete. This executor has everything that you need. Activation bounds is like, don't place an order if the distance from the current price is below a certain percentage. So if the activation bounce is 1%, it's only going to place the orders of the grid that are below, that are from a distance from the mid price of 1% at maximum. So has a lot of features to control order placement and execution, with just creating the grid with a config. And well, obviously the triple barrier that only uses the take profit and the time limit. The take profit is the take profit of each individual order. This is good because let me answer a few questions. Saul says, how is the variable that says how many decimals we can put in an order? Like some exchanges to 1 decimal, 2 decimals. You go to the Quants Lab and use the trading rules. In the trading rules, you have there mean price increment. You have mean step. You check all the variables are in the trading rules. Actually, here you go. Trading rule. These are the things. Minor, and you have here like what each of these things represents. This is in Python. The PXD is where you define like the object, but because the core of Hummingbot is in Python to be faster. This is where you're going to get it. And in the Quants Lab, there are some examples that shows that. And Maximo says, each trade of the grid has its own executor. No, Maxi, the idea of this executor is that the grid is an executor itself. So the executors are like automated actions that you want to do with the exchange that will have his own P&L, his own volume, his own open position. So it's like the executor can be a TWAP, the executor can be a grid, the executor can be a position executor, the executor can be a DCA. The ones that we have available are here, strategy V2 executors. We have here grid executor. So here, this grid executor is like a cousin of the position executor. You can do a grid with multiple position executors, but as I did, the first thing that I did was I created a controller that uses a bunch of position executors to generate a grid. But then I figured out that it's not worth if I know how is the execution pipeline, I prefer to just code an executor that does that, because we reduce the number of async tasks a lot, like in terms of performance, and also I can do more crazy stuff with activation bounds and stuff. So having the own executor for grid has certain benefits. Also, for example, the DCA executor has multiple open orders and one close order, but the take profit is always related to the break-even price at any level. So if one level gets executed and you reach the take profit, we close. If two levels are executed, the take profit is measured against the break-even price. And so that is how it like each executor has its own logic. For example, the logic from the grid executor is here. We have a bunch of parameters here. The first thing that all the executors do before starting the execution is validating if there is enough balance to make this execution. And then, well, here is when we are generating the grid levels. The control task is a thing that we are looping through. We get the open orders to create, the close orders to create, the open orders I need to cancel, and the close orders I need to cancel. Well, coming back to the controller. So this is like the config. I was saying this. You will see that take profit is a variable that we can pass. And this is really important because usually the grids that you can create in Binance, for example, they have the take profit is a step, right? So if the step is 0.1, the take profit is always 0.1 because each order has the opposite order in the next step. What I did here is like I let the user define a different take profit than the step in case that you want. And if the take profit ends up being lower than the step, there is a parameter called coerce take profit to step true, that in the case that the take profit is lower than the step, it will use a step as a take profit. That's interesting because you can create a very dense grid with a bigger take profit, maybe it's a double, but it's like you are making that you can trade more than in the opposite scenario. So, well, this grid strike grid component, as you can see, this is the controller. It's a controller base, so it's not inheriting from market making, it's not inheriting from directional trading. We just code the logic that we want of the strategy here. What we are coding, we only need to code, a controller only needs to have, is like if we go to controller base, the controller needs two methods only to be coded. The first method that we need is the update processed data. In this method, the idea is that we compute everything that we need from the market. If we need indicators, we need anything, we do it in this step when we update the processed data. And the second thing that we need to do is to determine the executor actions. This method, basically, what it's going to do is what we need to provide is a list of actions that we want to execute. The actions can be create a new executor, stop an executor. Only two actions to make it simple. That is why I made it in this way. It's like if the controller that can be controlled by an AI agent in the future, let's say, can only do two things, create a controller or stop a controller, it's very simple to think like the execution. It's like you don't need to think about, oh, the order failed, I will react to the event and then do this and then do that. No, that should be coded inside the executor. You just need to create executors and stop executors. That will let you scale your strategies a lot because you are not going to deal with execution problems. The execution problems are going to be managed by the executors. You only need to deal with how you create and how you stop the executors. Okay? Well, so we only need to provide these determine executor actions and the update processed data. These are the two methods that we need to implement for sure when we are coding a controller base. So here, as you can see, from the update processed data we put pass because we are not going to do nothing crazy. We are just going to create a grid with a certain limits that are defined in the config. And the only thing that we are doing is if there are no active executors, this active executor is checking, it's like I mentioned before that the controller have a list of executors and a list of position hold that belongs to that specific executor. So if there is no executor created here, active, we are going to, and we are inside the bounds, so the price is between the end price and the start price, we are going to create a grid executor. So how the action works is that we have two action types that we can send. Create, and we need to pass the config of the executor, and or stop an executor with this ID. That is the two things that you need to do. So this grid executor config, we need to pass the timestamp, the connector name, trading pair, start price, end price, average, and so all the things that we added from the config. And it's like a very dummy execute the controller. This one, this controller, the only thing that does is, hey, if there is no executor, create it. Just very simple to understand how it works. There are going to be some cosmetic or like user experience improvements that I will do. For example, this controller ID that I'm sending here, probably I will add a method to infer it based on who is the sender. But well, for now, you need to pass it. Well, how we run this one? Let me create one of these. As you can see, there is no prompt on new here. As there is no prompt on new for the parameters, it's going to put all the values as default. So this UI will not let you do things. But I found that it's much more easier to edit the YAML than completing the things here. So it doesn't make sense for me to complete the things in the terminal. You can just create the basic one and then edit the YAML. So we can put here create controller config generic grid strike grid component. Let's pull it. Let's call it like grid BTC FD USD. And now, if we go here to the conf controllers, you will see that I have here this grid BTC FDUSD. Let's call it grid BTC FDUSD. Let's change this to Binance. Let's put this BTC FDUSD. Basically, these things only apply for perpetuals. So it's like we don't care about this. Side one, this is because it's encoding the trade type. So if you go here to trade type, you will see that 1 is buy and 2 is sell. So we can actually improve the controller to have the string of the name, but well, I just did it in this way. Then the start price, let's define the start price for Bitcoin. Where is it? Let's make a very tight grid to just show like the execution. So let's say that we're going to run the grid between 83. Let's put, how much is this? It's going to be a very tight grid. Let's put it between 83,800 and 84. Let's put a very tight grid. I don't care if we go below the threshold. And the limit price, this is interesting because the limit price is when we determine that the grid reaches a price that doesn't make sense to keep the grid. Can be treated as a stop loss. It's like the limit price is a stop loss price too. It's like, but with the new feature that I added, that is keep position equal true, that in this controller is not added, but let's add it to the controller. Wait, let me close the things that we are not using anymore. So grid strike, grid component. Here, as you can see, it's not using the keep position equal to true, but we can do it keep position true. In this case, if keep position is equal to true, when it reaches the limit price, we'll keep the position, the grid. That is what it's going to do. So I just added it here, but if you want, you can add it as a configuration parameter. Okay, hasta luego, Gran Stephen. Rodion says, can you add Whitebit as a connector? It was in a previous version, Whitebit. We removed it from governance. Usually you have a governance process where the people vote for the connectors that they want in the code base, and the people also create bounty for other developers from the community to create the connectors. But we don't add things on demand. It's like the idea of having the governance token is that the people can vote for it, so there is some value around it. Well, then this thing is already there. Let me finalize this. So let's put 500, or yeah, 500 or 700. So at this price, we're going to keep the position. So mean spread between orders, this is going to be, let's put 0.001. Mean order amount quote, $5. Max open orders T is okay. Max orders per batch. Order frequency, let's put 3 sec, or let's put 1 second or 2 seconds. Activation bounds, I'm going to show how this works. Let me put like 0.005. This open order type 3 is limit maker. Usually this is what we want, because let me show the market, sorry. You see that the fee level is 0, but only for maker. So if we are not running sending maker trades, we are going to be charged by the fees, and we don't want to pay fees. So if the order gets executed as market, we are going to end up paying fees. So in that case, it's better to just use limit maker. That the limit maker order, we can see a lot of failures when using it, because if the order that we send is very close to the mid price, that is what is going to happen with this executor, and crosses the book, the exchange will return us a message that says, if the order gets executed, we'll automatically match and take, so we are rejecting your order, and that is going to we are going to receive an event of failed order. So well, that is why we are doing this. Stop loss null, stop loss order type, take profit. Let's put 0.001 here, so we can see a bunch of trading activity. Time limit, we don't care. Trading stop, we don't care. Okay, so now let's add this to here. Let me comment this, and then put read BTC FDUSD.YAML. Okay, let's see if we are already outside the bounds that we defined for this executor. Let me put. I think that is okay. Let's run it, because we already have we can see at least the limit price with the key position equal to true, and how it's holding the position in that case if we go below. So let's trust that it keeps a little bit in the market between we go out. So we just running that, created 23 levels. Only 23 levels. Wait, let me stop. It already finished. I was stopping that and keep the position. Sorry. Let me see the config, because it doesn't make sense that it created with that amount. We put $1,000. Now let's put $200 here. And mean split between orders. Yes, okay, this. Yeah, I think that is okay. So let's start it again. Okay, now it started. At some point you will see that we put the limit in 83,800, but you see that it's still placing buy orders, and you're going to ask, why is it still placing buy orders if we put the limit in 83,800? And the answer for that is that the grid, remember, that was something like this. The grid was something like this. We put up to 84K. Up to 84 is here. 84 is here. And we put the limit in 80. Let's use this value as a limit of 83,800. And the limit price, we put it in 83,700. So what happens? The green part is the actual trading range from our grid, right? So the orders that we are going to be buy and sell of the grid is going to be this part. In the red part, we are not going to sell, but we can buy, because the behavior of the grid is that, this is how it is designed. You can change it if you want, but usually, if you are used to run grids, what the grid does at first is it buys everything at market that needs to place the sell orders. So usually the grid, when it's fully placed, it places sell, 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 and sell, and whatever, right? But all this inventory is you buy it at once, right? That is what usually a grid does. So as I didn't want to buy everything at once, because in that case I'm going to just buy everything at just one level, how I designed this is that it will buy it, but progressively. So it will check, is there any order around my current level? Yes, if there is an order, I will prioritize that order. But if not, we'll look for orders that are above the grid that needs to buy in order to accumulate the inventory necessary to sell it later on. So that's why here is still buying, because probably these orders that are buying here are orders that represent a sell level that has to be sell up here. So that is why we can still buy here, but we are not selling here, because this is not like a sell zone. So well, the potential behaviors that we have here is that, number one, if the grid is still in this range, we buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. If it goes above here, we end up with zero inventory of Bitcoin, will be all USDT. If it goes below here, all the inventory that bought, that didn't sold, will be considered as position hold. So if we go to the terminal now, and we go here and say status live, you will see that here says realized PNL made 0.06 cents. So this is like $0.06. The position PNL is related to this $137 that we have open, because all this amount that we bought, as I mentioned, that is going to be sold up here, is amount that we bought that will be sold later on, but now it's part of my position. When that is sold, will become like realized PNL, but this is how it has position PNL and it has realized PNL. And the realized fees are the fees that we paid from the orders that we already closed. That, as all the orders are limit maker, we didn't pay any fees. Then we have here order statistics. We sent 120 orders. We filled 58 orders. We canceled 72 orders. And well, here we can see the logs, right? Well, and the bot is still trading with the grid. We accumulated inventory, and well, this is the report, like to understand at high level how the grid works. We traded already like $600, so this is interesting because the total amount that we decided to expose was $200. We already in 5 minutes triplicated the amount that we defined to trade in that range. So the volume was a good volume for the amount that we put. Well, any questions about this grid executor? If not, I will move to the last thing of today's session. That probably now maybe we can close it here because the position hold feature involves like some knowledge of how the position hold works, and it's very new, so I don't have too much time to continue. We are already like 1 hour and 40 minutes of live stream, so maybe it's worth to finish here, and the next week in the live stream continue talking about this position hold feature and any questions that you have around this. But well, I hope that you enjoyed this session. As you can see, this is 1 second candles, so see that the good thing about the grid is that we can trade a lot if we want. Stanislaw says, if we only bought BTC, why the position does only show USDT? You mean this, Stanislaw? Like this position that says 30? Oh, that is an important consideration, that in order to normalize, because usually we trade everything against USDT or FDUSD or USD or in quote, let's say. All the executors, when they represent the amounts, they're usually doing it in quote asset, because it's the only way that you have to compare the positions that you have. Let's say that you are doing like statistical arbitrage. That is basically what I'm doing the most. I'm not creating content around that because that is like the thing that we are running the most with my friends. So we are exploring that. Also, it's a little bit more advanced. I published a few things on this on Twitter about it, well, on X about that. But usually in that problem, you need to manage like the position from one asset multiplied by a beta, and then determine the position that you need from the other asset. And that basically is like, if you can compare units of BTC with units of ETH, is that you need to compare like the USD value of that. The same for anything, is like you will need to compare the actual units in a measurement that you can do. Oh, it finished. Oh, we reached the take profit. So as you can see, the grid ends up being in take profit. So we couldn't see we are outside the bounds, so we cannot see the other things. But well, at least we take profit. And we make 34 cents. Okay. Well, that's all. The last thing that I can show is the behavior of the activation bounds. That you will ask, if you saw the previous thing, is like we were making all around like the the position is in BTC, is converted to USDT. Is in USD value. So let me show now. If I remove the activation bounds, let's say that I put the activation bounds, this was in 0.005. Let's put like 1%, so it's very big. This will restrict the orders only around this 1%. Let me increase this up to 84,200, like this. So it's like up to this value. Will be up to this value. So with this, you're going to really see how what is the behavior of the activation bounds and the actual grid. I usually like to use I really like to use activation bounds because it covers you from exposing a lot of inventory at a certain price. What that means is like, if I place all the orders here and suddenly the price goes down all at once, all my orders are going to be filled at this specific price. If instead of placing the orders and having the orders in the market, I have the theoretical price of that order, if there is a big drop, I'm not placing the orders at that time, but when my bot realizes that the price of that order is already passed, then it's going to place that order back. So it's like you're going to win some gap in the market from a big movement. So that in terms of execution, I think that is really cool. So that's why I usually use activation bounds. So well, let me remove the activation bounds to show you this again. $34 grid levels. Wait. Sorry, stop. Because I also need to put max open orders. Let's put 40. So we can see all the orders placed. But remember that we also have the feature of max orders per batch. That is 1. That means that we can only send 1 order per batch. Right? So see that the first 3 orders that is placing, they are all really together. This is because we are placing the orders that represents the levels that are up here. Remember that I told you that the orders that are going to be here, those are like not going to be placed. Well, now suddenly we start. Let me start it again, because the market is going down up a lot. So let me change the levels. So let me put between, just to show how it's a full feel of the grid. Let me put here, let's say somewhere here 83 9 84, from 84, let me put from 84 to 84 to 100. No, it's 84 and 84 into 100 is over 300. Let me start it again with that config. Okay, now started. Yes, that places the take profit. But you see that these orders are like really close from that price. Those orders represent like higher prices of the grid that needs to be placed in the future. So see that now it's trying to fill the gaps, or it's like trying to buy the sell orders that should be placed here theoretically by the grid, but instead of buying all of them at once, is buy them progressively to avoid like having a fixed price to start. You see that now is buying all the orders. But yeah, but this is why I mentioned that exposing this with the activation bounds very big or without activation bounds, it's like exposing all the inventory in a fixed value for free, because nobody's paying for you. And now if there is a big drop, like a big drop here, all these orders are going to be executed at that level, so that's not very good for us. But well, depending on how you want to execute, will work or not. Ultimately, the execution depends on how you really want to do it. But well, as you can see, this is a simple controller. See that by changing a simple configuration of the grid, the execution is totally different. So that's almost like one of the goals of the executors, is like by just changing the configuration of it, you can have a different type of execution. So well, I think that this is a good path, and hopefully we can we can improve it and create more and more executors and controllers are doing crazy things. Okay, we're going to finish here. One thing to remember, we have a cohort because some people was asking about the Bootcamp cohorts. This year we reduced a lot like the frequency. Last year we did like 5 cohorts. This year we are more focused on trading our portfolio, and we are doing some business with other companies, but we decided to at least do 2 cohorts this year. One is going to start on April. The dynamic is very simple. We have like live sessions where you can see the dynamics here in bootcamp.xyz cohorts. Basically, there we give you access to the 3 courses that we have. We have more, but we give you access to the 3 cohorts that we have. We have a theoretical session on market making. We explain and we do some exercises on controllers to do like we have to follow along that stuff. We explain some of the most advanced strategies, cross-exchange market making. What are the differences between like relations between AMM and grids, and so we teach how to go custom strategies and all stuff. And then the idea is that in the week 3 is all implementation and coding. That usually is better that you start with the strategy at first. It's like for me, the cohort is really cool for someone that is already like into algo trading or wants to get into algo trading, or has a strategy that really wants to learn how to implement. Usually, I always recommend to think about the simplest version of your strategy that then you can implement. In case that you don't want to give all the details of your strategy, you can just design like an initial version of that strategy. And the idea is that we help you understanding what are the things that you need to do to implement your custom strategy. And then there is the last part that is the most fun part, is a demo day that basically all the students showcase their strategies to the other participants, and we make a voting who is a winner, and then we have NFTs for the certificates and for the winner. So it's really cool in that case, because there is like a networking, all that stuff. Something important is like it's not easy to get certified. We don't like to like give away, because there's a lot of people that takes Bootcamp, but they don't want to. They just take it for the for the networking. Some of them take it to learn the basics, but they probably don't want to present or do the strategy, and so we only certify the ones that really deliver a strategy or demonstrate that they traded on the market. That's something that makes at least the program unique. And if you take it seriously and you build your own strategy, it's going to be something that is going to be cool for you, and you can do other things. And there are like, here you have the certification list of the ones that took the cohort. These are the ones that were certified. In total, we have like 200 plus alumni, 250 alumni already, but certified there are like 70 plus. So, and the other important thing is that in terms of pricing, I don't know what is the price right now, but I think there is a discount that Mike showed yesterday on the thing. But the important thing that I always mention about this is like, if you want that someone codes a trading strategy for you, I don't know, I was checking yesterday on Twitter, there was one guy throwing hate to the robot James because he was charging, I think that I saw it yesterday. I think that, I don't know, but there was one guy hating the robot James. That is one cool guy from It's this one, Robot James. The Robot James. This guy is cool. It's like he shows what he wants and has content about this. But he hated this guy because he has like a page where he was offering the strategy review and plans for implementation, and he was charging 3K. And it's like, and the guy was saying that this guy wants to steal the strategy for free, and also you have to pay. And it's like 3K for a trading strategy, like a proficient trading strategy, is normal. It's like you are not. It's like there's people that sells websites for 1K, or some people sells websites for 5K. Well, now with AI, probably that is going to be much more lower. But it's like it's usually the price that you have to manage, because coding a strategy from scratch and everything involves like understanding how the strategy works, understanding a lot of things that and obviously developing the actual strategy has a lot of complexity. So the good thing is that if you take Bootcamp and you know really what to do, that is what my recommendation always is. Don't take Bootcamp for taking it. It's like, if you take Bootcamp, it's because you want to implement your own strategy and you want to be successful and understand how to improve it. So if you are going to give that strategy for someone else to code it, you're going to pay something like that, 3K, 4K, 5K. So instead, you can take Bootcamp and learn how to do the strategy by yourself. That is something that is more valuable than someone coding a strategy for you, because at the end, probably you are not going to make the perfect strategy, but you're going to learn how to improve it and how to do more things around it. So well, that's my recommendation. I hope that some of you join, and we can help you with the strategies. And also, we are very open, because in the office hours, it's like, I don't know, one time one guy said, I want to make a liquidations feed that streams the liquidation from Binance and does that. And usually I'm in the office hours, and I just say, okay, let's do it. And I just start coding and show how to make a connection with WebSockets to that feed, how to stream the WebSockets, and then save that in a local variable, how to access that from the strategy. So it's like, we are not selling in Bootcamp, we are not selling like false expectatives of, oh, you're going to get rich, you're going to be, no, we just sell the knowledge of how to code any type of algo trading strategy that you want, how to structure, how to think about it, and obviously help you with the implementation. So that is what I can say. I can tell you. There is there is a Discord where you can see other participants and ask questions about it. Well, that's all for today. As you can see, the grid is still running. We can check let's check the stats. We already did 200 trades. So we can see the stats. As you can see here, we have realized P&L 34 cents. This is probably from the previous grid that had one take profit. And then from the current one, that is the unrealized, is 4 cents. So if you see here, the realized P&L is 0.08, and the realized P&L is minus 0.08. Now, as you can see, the unrealized P&L is negative. Why? Because the realized P&L takes into account all this buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell that we did. But the position P&L takes into account the position that we have with the break-even price, that right now in the pie chart terminal that is really buggy, we can't see it, but here should say the break-even price. But well, and also here we have the open liquidity and the closed liquidity. The open liquidity is $53 are the amount of money that we have here in these buy orders, and the closed liquidity is the liquidity we're using to close the grid, that is $150. That is all this part from here. So well, this is to investigate for you. It's like my idea from this is to show you how to run the basic stuff to get started on all stuff here. And if you have like ideas on how you can use them and start exploring them, it will be really cool. So well, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. And well, see you next week. Probably next week we are going to start with the position hold feature that I'm really hype on that, because I have been using it. Well, just to give you some rough numbers, with a maximum exposure of Bitcoin of 1.3 or 1.2k, like in the inventory. So it's like at maximum I end up having 1k of Bitcoin. I traded per day around 180k US. So it's like the return of the like the volume that I'm generating is massive. It's like it's a lot. So usually the people that have access to negative fees accounts, they are looking for this type of things where you can be maker, get paid by placing limit orders, and generate a ton of volume without too much risk. That is like the ultimate goal. So I end up having very good results with this new feature of position hold rather than the other one. Well, see you next week probably. Jump on Discord to recommend what you would like to see, if there is something special, but for sure that we are going to start looking and explain the position hold feature. Thank you very much and see you. Have a great weekend.